Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Latter Day Album series. The premise of this series is to talk about Latter Day albums by a band or artist, which didn't get enough love or recognition, or maybe some people don't even know these albums were released. Before we go into the album today, let me introduce you to my distinguished guest, who you have no doubt seen many, many times on Grant's Rock Warehouse, and you've also seen him for a couple shows here on the live cut series
Oh,
here on John the Music Nut. DC Toontime, Daryl Collins, whichever you prefer. Welcome
either
back.
way is good.
There you
Nobody
go.
nobody really calls me Daryl. It's always DC or D. Because, Daryl tends to be just a name that everyone remembers from the Newhart show with the two
Ah,
brothers, Daryl and Daryl.
there you go.
You remember the Far Side comic panel. Daryl was usually one of the names that Gary Larson would use for some dumbass doing something he shouldn't be doing and bearing the brunt of his foolish decision. So D's fine. DC's also great with me.
There you
And
go.
Daryl, if you want, that's fine too.
You've called yourself Daryl a couple times, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, and in fact, my little graphic here, I
It's
have
Daryl.
Daryl,
There you
so
go.
that's good.
All right. The album we're going to discuss today is an album by one of DC's favorite artists, Todd Rundgren. The album Arena. This was released on September 30, 2008 on Hi-Fi Records, Hi-Fi Recordings. This was Todd's 19th studio album. The musicians who played on the album are Todd Rundgren on everything.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's one of his albums where he's done every stinking thing imaginable on the LP all by himself. And that is a testament to the man's talent.
We always hear about how Paul McCartney's done this many times. Prince has done this many times. Todd Rundgren was doing it as long as Paul McCartney was.
Oh yeah. I
Definitely.
mean, in fact, the classic double album from the early 70s, Something Anything, which is actually for you vinyl enthusiasts. There you go. It's a force, two sides, two LPs, and Todd plays everything, sings everything on three of the four. The one side he does bring in a lot of studio cats and friends in the music biz. But three sides of that album, that is all Todd. And during that time period, the music was just flowing out of him. I mean, and it is all of a very high standard. I mean, amongst double albums in the course of my life of listening to music, that Something Anything album is like right up there, right at the top. I mean, the song, the musicianship, the songcraft, everything is, especially for my taste, as you mentioned, John. Anybody that knows me from my appearances on your show here and Grant's Rock Warehouse knows what a Rundgren freak I am because part of it was growing up in Northeast Ohio. For whatever reason, Todd has a humongous following in the Cleveland, Akron, Youngstown area. In fact, the whole state of Ohio. But yeah, I've been a fan of his for a long, long time. In fact, I could first remember, if I could remember the first time I heard a Todd Rundgren tune. If you can imagine old DC as young DC, in fact, grade school DC, in his basement on roller skates, just skating around the basement with the radio playing, and I hear this song, "We Got to Get You a Woman." And young DC's ears perked up and said, I was a big fan of AM radio back in the day and pop music. And that song connected with me. And this man's music just connects with me. I know we all have those artists where just about everything they create, you're on their wavelength. And with Todd, he's gone through so many different musical machinations And 90% of the time, I'm on board with it because at his core, at his creative core as a musician, his stuff just resonates with me, and I can't explain it any better than that. So,
Well, that answers my next question. When did you first hear Todd Rundgren's music?
it was that "We Got to Get You a Woman." That song just captivated me from the get-go, and it was the name that he used to record that tune was called Runt, because I
Yes.
remember skating and then stopping towards the end of the song. Now, who did this song? DJ says that was by Runt. So off I went, bought the 45 next time. My mom took me over to Hills department store
Oh, yeah.
where I made all my early musical purchases. But he was known as Runt, and soon after, I didn't buy those earlier Rundgren albums. The first album I bought by him was Something Anything. And then I kind of went backwards. But yeah, in the course of my life, it's been the Beatles, Todd Rundgren, and Steely Dan have been the top three artists that really resonate with me.
Very good. Now, me, it was probably maybe listen to AM radio in the 70s. I definitely remember We Gotta Get You a Woman. I
Hmm.
definitely remember Hello, It's Me.
Hmm.
And in the 80s, they played them on classic rock radio, Rock 107, WEZX FM, Renton, Pennsylvania, the home of rock and roll. He didn't go deep on them, though.
Hmm.
They only played the hits. So you heard I Saw the Light, Hello, It's Me. You heard Open My Eyes by
Yep.
the when he was in the Nas, a
Yep.
few other songs. I want to bang the drum all day. You'd hear that. You're not can we still be friends?
Hmm.
They didn't go into deep cuts.
Right.
But Todd was only from 2 hours south of us, right outside of Philadelphia.
Hmm.
So Todd has a very big following in this area. I remember when I was in high school, he would be playing in Wilkes-Barre, which was just on like not even 10 minutes away from me. He would play over at the station. He would, and later on when they opened a Kirby Center, he would play there. He always had a following year. Even in the 80s when those albums weren't really selling well, people
Right.
he was always playing here. Like this was like a staple for him to play. I didn't see him until maybe 9 years ago, and that was
Okay.
in Jim Thorpe. And since then, I've seen him four more times, including twice last year.
Hmm.
And it's interesting with Todd. You never know what you're going to get live because the first time I saw him, and let me know if you've seen what is he have an unpredictable evening with Todd Rundgren. Did you ever see those shows?
I heard of those tours, but I've seen Todd many, many times, but I've not been to any of those shows where really anything goes and he's taking requests from the audience. I've seen
Yep.
clips of him even singing Muskrat Love.
Yeah. Well, the thing, it's interesting. The first time I saw him was on one of those unpredictable evenings, and he just sat there drinking a martini all night, and they just played whatever they felt like, and it was
Yeah.
mostly covers, and they were playing Ringo by Lorne Green.
Yeah, I mean, it's astounding stuff that's thrown. It's like improvised comedy when you've got some comedians on stage and
Right.
people are just firing ideas from the audience, and then you just have to leap into the situation or the characters that are presented. The guy's such a pro and he works with the best of the best as far as his band is concerned that yeah, when a Lauren Green gem gets tossed out there,
Yeah.
they just lock into it. There's no real
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. And it was just like he was playing more covers than his own stuff. And
Hmm.
he played in the year 2525 by Zager and Evans. I mean, shit. And
Yeah.
but it was the band well, his band has switched up a little bit lately, but Castle
Yes.
is still there.
Chasm. And the funny thing about that, John, is that early on when Todd was needing to replace his bass player, which I think was John Simons,
Okay.
during the Utopia, the very early prog Utopia and Todd solo. Um, Chasm came in to try out for the band, and initially Todd did not want to include him
Hmm.
in the new Utopia. But the two other guys in the band, Roger Powell and Willie Wilcox, said, "Oh, Chasm's a part of this band." And since Utopia was a democracy
Democracy.
and they all had a vote, Todd got outvoted. And how strange. Chasm has been his right hand man since 1976.
Yes,
And he adds so much to the overall Todd vibe as a solo artist, not only just with the Utopia stuff, but Todd as a solo artist and as a touring musician, he leans on Chasm quite a little bit.
absolutely.
So you never know how things start out, how things are going to play out in the end. But oddly, and I saw Todd and Chasm as a part of that tribute to Burt Bacharach
Oh,
tour
yes.
that went on last year.
Mhm.
Uh, my wife and I, we went and we loved it. Todd was in phenomenal voice. He did the one Bacharach song that he did with Elvis Costello, God Give Me Strength. Standing, oh man, he knocked it out of the park. Chasm always got also got a chance to sing some tunes and got to sing a tune or one or two tunes with Todd in this big band that was touring. The good thing about it, and I think why Todd, even at his advanced age, his vocals were so good that night is there were about five different lead vocalists, and one would come on stage and then leave, and then another vocalist would come out, and they would, it wasn't like he was carrying the whole vocal load all night, but guy's just a phenomenal talent. Just when you talk about musical genius, I put him right up there at the top of the top. And like I said, for me, his musical talent just resonates with me. So I mean, not everybody's going to feel the same way, but
And when I saw him at Bearsville Theater up in Woodstock, New York, back in July, and that was not long after you had seen the tribute to Burt Bacharach,
mhm.
that night, that was a fantastic show. And they did a couple songs off of acapella,
Mhm.
and so the band was singing that, and they sounded like angels.
Oh my God, John, did you you probably did weren't as into Todd at the time, but I saw him on that a cappella tour. And there may be one musical instrument that was brought out every three or four songs, but it was like a 15 to 17 piece choir that did that a cappella tour. And the arrangement of the vocals and the actual singing and everything was phenomenal. And that just really blew me away. I mean, as we are going to talk about with Todd in this album, the guy is a true artist. I mean, he does so many different things and all at the highest level. Like I say, this arena album, I think he figured not really done an arena rock album, or it's not all arena rock, but I think that was the idea for this album, as most of these tracks do have more of a uh, AC/DC or even a Blue Oyster Cult vibe within the tunes. So like I say, the guy, you can't say he's not tackled just about every musical discipline out there. Though, but the only time I think I was kind of disappointed in a concert, and this was a real undertaking by him, was when he started calling himself TR-I, Todd
Okay, I
Rundgren
remember that.
Interactive. He bought this contraption into these clubs, and I was living in Cincinnati at the time, and we were at this um, campus music venue. I think they could barely get this stage type contraption thing into the venue. And it was him touching on a little bit of rap and hip hop along with the usual um, flavors of Todd Rundgren. And it was interesting, but it wasn't my favorite concerts of him. But that's the way the guy is. I think he gets bored with doing the same stuff. he could have continued to write songs like he wrote on Something Anything for the rest of his career, but that's not how an artist like Todd is. He's always challenging himself and switching things up. So, and he's got a great sense of humor too. I have to add that. It's another thing I really appreciate with the guy is he's very funny and insightful. And this album art
Yes.
adds to that. I'm sure there's a little bit of digital chicanery going on
Yeah.
there, but it is really funny and cool all in the same. So hats off, Todd.
That's right. And he put this out when he was 60. And this sounds more vital than what most musicians 30 or younger were doing at this point, in my
Hmm.
opinion, while still retaining that master craftsmanship that Todd has always had.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful album. And I've owned this maybe 15 years or so.
Hmm.
I went back and listened to this again recently. I suggested this album, but I hadn't listened to it in a few years. I was surprised how these songs came right back to me. Like a lot of these were already in my DNA
Right.
when I was listening to this. It's called Arena. Maybe half of this is arena rock, but it wouldn't have been what arena rock sounded like in 2008. A lot of great hooks on these songs,
Yes.
but there's a lot of great bridges on these songs. Nearly everything on here is top notch. DC, what would you think? What would you list as some of the highlights on Arena?
Well, let's go to my trusty collection of notes on that. I mean, there is really only one tune on this album that doesn't do it for me. It's track 10, Bardo, for whatever reason. And it's not a horrible or a terrible song. It's just of the 13 tracks, that's the one that grabs me the least. I mean, it starts out good, but my favorites are like you get four tunes in and you get the song Gun, and it is so rocking and catchy, and it's kind of like a rock shuffle to
Yes,
my ears. That's one of the favorites, and it's got some very abrupt starts and stops. Da 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 da. But I mean, it's got a really nice vibe to it. The track after it, if you were going to pick a single from this album, and there's no reason for anybody of the age of Todd Rundgren to try and get in the mix of top 40 radio at this time. But if we could transport ourselves back and release this album, that next track, Courage, would be the pick to click, as they say.
absolutely.
It's me love being a big fan of pop music, and Todd does it so well. This is my favorite song on the whole album. The one thing is, it's a damn shame because I feel like the vocals are a little bit buried on this song in the mix. Now, YouTube, somebody had taken that song and did some digital chicanery to it and brought those vocals to the fore, really more prominent in the mix. The song sounds so much better, more impactful. But that's really the only thing, and it irks me every time I listen to this tune because if I could track down the dude that did the digital mix, I'd like to buy that copy of what he did to the song and listen to that, but it wasn't for sale. It was just something he put up there because he was of the same mind as I was. So this is such a great song. Why are the vocals so buried? I don't know. None of the rest of the album is like that. For some reason, this tune, vocals are buried into the mix and they should be right front and center, punchy, because it is such a great chorus, great vocals, great melody. But that's neither here nor there at this point, is it?
Exactly.
It's all water under the bridge. Um, Strike, I mentioned in my notes, is one that sounds like AC/DC to me. That's one of your, as we said, arena rock tunes on this album. There's a song on, here's the thing too that I didn't notice at the very beginning, but as I'm looking at the CD and such, I noticed that all the songs have one word titles.
Yes.
And I'm sure that was planned. That was not just happenstance. But there's a song on here, again with Todd's sense of humor, song called Piss. And it's
Yes,
basically
sir.
a song about screwing up. And it's got the incomparable lyric, Your dick is in the mayonnaise. What the? And I was listening to that, and with Todd, it just you can expect a tune or two where he's going to drop his sense of humor in there. I think when I heard that, I just started laughing out loud. Um, but like I said, what other note? Mountaintop is another rocker, and even the driving riff reminds me of someone ascend or climbing a mountain. Just the feel of the song. It's got a great call and response vocals. Um, but like I said, there was one tune here, and I need to bring this up as well. Um, the song Today, I think that tune was a leftover from this album, which was his previous Liars album. It's got the same kind of vibe of the tracks on this album. And I think it may have been a leftover that he dropped into his next album. But again, that's another one of my favorite ones. It's a more of a spacey vibe. And Liars, that album is a totally different vibe than this one. Um, yeah, it's an outlier from the rest of the tracks here as I listen to it. So I'm thinking this was probably done for the previous album and just left over for whatever reason. But
Before we go on to what I enjoy, Liars. Liars, the the reviews on that album was Todd was not mincing any words as far as what he thought about the world on that album.
mhm.
Liars, and what I'd like to ask is I only know the songs I only know from Liars are the songs that I've seen him do live because he did a few songs off that album this past tour in 2025. Musically, how would you compare that to Arena?
This is more what I would expect from a Todd Rundgren album.
Okay.
Whereas Arena, he's done a few songs that I would call kind of arena rock tunes like Little Red Lights from
Mhm.
Something Anything and Everybody's Going to Heaven from the Todd album. Those are kind of like arena rock type tunes. But the bread and butter of Todd Rundgren's music is uh, a little bit experimental, a little bit spacey at times, very soulful vocals, thought-provoking lyrics. And that is more in the spirit. Oh, I've got it upside down, folks. Sorry.
I did it too.
This is more in the spirit of what you would expect from Todd. It's a little bit more, how should I say, digitally processed music than what I like from him. I think there's a lot of keys and such that he's using because I think this is largely him alone creating this album as well. But it's got a lot of Todd's reflections on life and the state of the world. Um, there's all kinds of stuff here to make you rub your chin and think a little bit,
Right.
but oh so tuneful. Uh, the guy can't help himself. It's like one of these folks like McCartney. Where do all these melodies and all these kind of twists and turns that are just so beautifully musically thought out come from? You either got it or you don't. And yeah, I have a rating system I do for all my CDs. And all those red circles around tracks means that I dig the heck out of this album. In fact, of later day albums for me, this would be my top choice for Todd. This is the strongest set of songs that he's done since of this century. Um, Really only two tracks here that so. Everything else is top of the top.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm completely with you on Courage, and I swear I saw him play this on some late night show, like Late Night with Conan O'Brien or something.
Hmm.
Yes, to me, this is pop perfection. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the vocals being a little buried in the mix, but everything about it otherwise is fantastic.
I'm glad we hear the same thing there, John,
What we
because
do.
until I saw that guy post a remix on YouTube, I was like, well, maybe you're getting older. Maybe you're just hearing things a little squirrely. And then now you share my thoughts on it. So,
Oh, it's true, because if you compare it to a song like Mad, which is the opener, the you can hear him clear as day. He's like shouting these vocals. He sounds mad on here.
yes.
A blistering rocker here.
Hmm.
This is like, okay, arena rock. Yeah, this would be like Strike. It's more hard hitting. I
Yes.
like the call and response on here between Todd and himself
Hmm.
on the vocals. I think this is wicked.
Yeah, it's a good track to start the album because it starts acoustically and then you get
Mhm.
into it and it really brings it home.
Absolutely. Now, Mercenary to me, that's like doom metal, but less distortion on it. And then you have a great hook, vocal hook here in the "How Do You Like Me Now" over and over. That
Hmm.
sounds excellent. That is wicked.
I mentioned in my notes, John, that not overtly, but a little bit in the song's construction and how it's put together. It reminds me of a little bit of something Blue Oyster Cult would do. But maybe that's just me. I'm not saying it's like front and center. Oh, how could, yeah, oh, absolutely. But I'm picking up little vibes here and there of Blue Oyster Cult in that tune.
And it's funny that you mentioned that little vibes. The song "You're Not Too High On," Bardo,
Hmm.
that sounds a lot like Robin Trower.
Let me,
Listen to a track called,
John, can you see? Let me
oh
see.
my God, did you write that down? Yep.
Sounds like Robin Trower. And I love Robin Trower, but I don't expect it from Todd. And maybe just listening to sequentially these tunes when I got to that one, I thought, if I want this, I'll listen to Robin Trower. So maybe that's why, because I could kind of see your face when I mentioned I don't really like Bardo. You're like, what the hell is this guy doing on my show? You squirrely old man.
Nah, man. I'm like, this is like the sister to "It's Only Money" from "For Earth Below."
I know exactly where you're coming from, and I agree. Yeah, I wrote it down as well. That's funny.
Now, to go a totally different direction,
Yes.
we're talking about pissing. Now, musically, particularly at the beginning, it sounds like the Pixies between that groove and those guitars.
Yeah, it's like a
Egyptian.
laid back, swanky kind of
Mhm.
vibe.
That is so Pixies to me. But I mean, when I say those things, it's all in a positive way. I mean,
Sure.
Todd is a true original, but you listen to enough music over your life, you're going to hear
Yeah.
things and go, "This sounds,"
It's inevitable, John. Like
Right.
I said, I always look at the visual arts, and people are always saying, "Well, that looks like so." Well, that's true. Hey, unless you were the first cave dweller to take a piece of charcoal and scratch something on a wall, we've all been building on what comes from before, and our job is to bring us to what our influences and likes are and create something new. So, agreed, agreed.
Weakness. He did that song live when I saw him at the Bearsville Theater, and the vocals on there are very, very strong. They sounded excellent live. But this, you think it's kind of, you think it's going to play like a ballad, but it does at times. But musically, it starts out pretty sinister, and then it becomes more of a lovely ballad.
John,
"You're My Weakness."
we are on the same page. Here, weakness, foreboding in tone to start. Why the hell am I here? Why do you need me, John? But it's all like you say, it's also very soulful. And
Hmm.
that's a tricky thing to have that kind of foreboding tone, yet you're working in a soulful, almost ballad-like vocal in the mix. That's not easy to do. And it's a real vocal and guitar playing tour de force, that tune.
Absolutely. A lot of the other songs, I'm with you on them. Gun, Todd's thoughts on gun control when you listen
Hmm.
to this one. And the great stop start rhythms in here are wonderful. I like Afraid a lot too. This has a few more electronics in it because you have electronics on this album, some keyboards, but they're they don't really carry the songs at all. They're more
Hmm.
there for color.
Yep.
I think this is another cool tune. It's more like a mid-tempo song, but there is a the keyboards in there add a little bit of a new wave feel to it, but it's getting complemented by these loud guitar chords on it.
Hmm.
And again, you got great hooks on here. Uh, let's see, and Mountaintop, take one step higher, higher, two
Yeah, it's just
steps high.
you feel like you're climbing along while listening to the song. It
Mm-hmm.
just brings that vibe across.
A lot of these songs too, they seem to be led by a cool bass line.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's really cool bass lines throughout. Like I'm not saying they're very repetitive, but they go right into your DNA. They're very
Exactly.
they're very cool. The last two songs, they in my opinion, it slips just a little bit, but they're still good.
Yeah.
Like Panic rocks like hell. That might be the most driving song on the album, but compared to what you've heard before, not quite as good. And Man Up is really cool. You got another cool bass line on that one as well.
Yeah, I agree, John. I think if they would have ended the album with Mountaintop, it would have been overall a better album.
Yes.
Panic is just, like you say, it's frantic in its pace.
Mhm.
And it's like of all the tracks on here, that's the one that's the most intense, just beginning to end. But I do agree that Panic and Man Up, if they would have left those two tracks, not that they're bad, but the album is stronger without those two because after you get the mountaintop, that might have been the perfect ending to the song, mountaintop. And I think the coda or the two added after that, I agree. It's a little bit of a drop off. I mean, not bad, but stronger album would be if those two were left off, my opinion, and yours, apparently.
Mhm. With the recording, how do you feel about the recording from this album? Now, in 2008, we had a lot of albums where we were saying they were suffering from the loudness wars.
Hmm.
How would you put this album in there among those others that get discussed like that?
Um, there is definitely a different way out music comes across in production values. When I'm thinking of my sweet spot of when I was so much music was accumulated by me and it all seemed to sound so wonderful and it was less digital, more analog. And as we've moved along, maybe your ears just get kind of numb to it. Um, and having said that, and as great a musician as Todd is, a lot of people think that he's a fantastic arranger, but with production, he's not necessarily um, the best of the best. And I'm speaking out of stuff that I don't have any kind of inside baseball information. But yeah, I mean, more my problem with some of Todd's later albums are that he relies a lot on digital drumming and digital keys and that sort of thing. And then you hear these same songs played with his band they're infinitely better with
Okay.
a band environment than Todd programming his keys or the drum machine and such. So in that respect, yeah, there could be a different approach here that to my older ears would sound better. Um, but I think a lot of times when Todd's creating these later albums, he's just doing it himself.
Yes.
And sometimes he's taking the most expedient route to lay down a drum track or to get some additional keyboard embellishments here and there. So, you know.
I noticed we got electronic drums here, but I think it still works for the album. The
Hmm.
only thing that I noticed, it seems a little bassy
Hmm.
to me, to my ears, because a part of me is like, these songs are great songs. I just wish it sounded a little more organic, like it had more of a 70s recording, but I realize that may not be completely possible now. I wish it was like a little more lo-fi.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it
Agreed.
is possible, but
I'm sure it is, John. It's just that maybe his approach was in your face arena rock, and I'm gonna pump the bass up a little bit more and maybe just a
okay.
tad overwhelming rather than accompaniment. I don't know. Like I've said, my big problem I have with the album is just those vocals on Courage.
Mm,
Everything else, yeah, I get. He's doing these things in his studio in Hawaii, and probably he doesn't have access to the best musicians to bring from the island, to fly Chasm or whoever he might
right,
need to bring in to work on the album might not really be feasible. Um, he's trying to create new music and everything, and he's trying to I'm sure he's also trying to reach a profit profit point
right,
within creating these things because he's not in his 70s and 80s heyday where he was making these incredible amounts of money hand over fist by production, being a producer.
point.
So he's got to, where am I right now? Where am I right now is maybe I can't make this album the way I would in the 70s or in the 80s when I had access to more of this. He makes his money nowadays from touring and he does a ton of touring.
Does
So hats off to him at his age. I think Todd's maybe 77, 78 now.
be 78 this year?
Yeah, so I think that's the reasoning for what we're perceiving on a lot of these later albums as something a little wonky with instrumentation and everything. I just think, he's making decisions and it's not like you say, it's not as organic a process as it would be, say, if he was still in the Philly area and could call in cats to play this, that, and the other thing on tracks. So that's my best guess.
Okay. Very good. So, DC, how would you rank Arena on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would give this an 8.5.
Okay.
Um, like I said, I've got so many Todd albums that I put in that 10 echelons and a couple, that are nines. This is a very good later period Todd album. I'll give it an 8.5. This one here, song-wise, I give this a 10, maybe with the way it had to be recorded and everything. I hate to be real picky because,
Mhm.
we do all these rankings and I tend to rank in big ass groups. And if I love it, that's a 10.
Right.
I'm not going to get 7.75. No, I just put them in big groups. If I like it, it's a 10. This is slightly underneath all my 10 ranked Todd albums. So what do I put? 9.5, 9.75. If I'm really getting picky about it. But Arena, for what it is and for the way it was recorded and such, latter period Todd, 8.5. Still a very good album. How about you, John?
8.5.
Oh, well, there you go, folks. There
0.5.
you go.
If it
Yeah.
was more organic and maybe real drums, maybe a 9.
Yes.
The whole time I've been listening to this, I'm going between 8.5 and a 9. I think 8 would not give it do it justice because there's too many great songs and great hooks on here and melodies that stay in your head.
Agreed.
But it's just the recording. I like it. I don't love it.
Hmm.
I'm not too crazy about the last two songs, but they're good. Everything else I love.
Hmm.
8.5 for me.
That's astonishing that we're so much on the same page because we're coming at it slightly different. Because I'm such an old cat. I'm like right from the beginning, every time a Todd album was going to be released, I'm like in line at the store to buy it when they're opening up and such. And you've caught on to him in the 70s was mostly just the prominent singles, and then later on been picking up a few albums here and there, but we all come to the same place with how we see this album. So these studies are so interesting
Yes.
because the commonality that we all have is we're very passionate about music, but we do come from different points of view, different ages, different exposures to things at different ages. So I just find it just very fascinating to hear people's opinions on this kind of stuff and how you might fall in line with stuff or how might you might see things completely different. So it's very interesting.
Very interesting. I'd like to ask you one more question. Is Todd is one of your all-time favorite artists? I have to ask this. This is not something I would be able to answer.
Hmm.
So I'm not as deep into his music. Of these three albums I'm about to name, what is your favorite one and why
Okay.
would it be your favorite? Something and something anything, A Wizard or True Star, or Todd, which are consecutive.
Yeah, and what a fruitful, incredible period in Todd's career. Those three. You know, John, from doing all those shows on Grant's Rock Warehouse where we do our top 10, you do know that I am just an pop music is where it's at for me. That includes me being a peewee, hearing all those early Beatles tunes on the Ed Sullivan Show. That was pop, the best of pop music. AM radio through the 60s and 70s. That's the stuff that formulated my musical tastes. And yeah, I like my hard rock, a wee bit of metal. I certainly like soul and funk, but I give it to something anything. But those two albums after it are right there. I mean, if you take something anything and then right after that you slap on a Wizard of True Star, it's like something has happened in this man's life in between these two albums, and he started experimenting with a few different substances, shall we say, that affected what he created with A Wizard, a True Star. But that album is right there. If something, anything is here, Wizard is like right barely underneath it. And I had no problem being a young teen listening to something, anything. And then as soon as A Wizard, a True Star came out, I bought that. And it was approach wise very different than something, anything. But man, I locked right into it. I thought it was fantastic. Both albums, both releases, such a variety of approaches. The Todd humor comes through, the Todd catchiness, the soulfulness, the incredible guitar playing. I think nowadays Todd doesn't care as much about being a guitar god. But at one time with those early Utopia albums, he was as good as just about anybody. Yeah,
Yes,
phenomenal. Listen to that first Todd Rundgren's Utopia album and tell me that isn't a top tier guitarist of the era.
absolutely. And I do have a copy of that album, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Hmm.
So the album we have discussed today is Todd Rundgren, Arena. For those of you who have joined us, thank you so much for watching this show. What do you think of this album by Todd Rundgren from 2008. And what do you think of Todd Rundgren's music? Are you more familiar with his hit singles? Are you a big fan like DC and know a wealth of his music? There are so many riches throughout Todd's catalog in a variety of genres. What are your favorite albums by Todd Rundgren? Your favorite singles by Todd Rundgren? What are your favorite productions by Todd Rundgren? Todd Rundgren has produced some of the best albums in the rock and roll era. Please let us know in the comments. DC, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure, John. We always have a good time when we collaborate on these shows, whether they're the live album series or these later period monumental talents that sometimes as they move along, the latter material doesn't get the attention it deserves. But we always have a great discussion. So thank you for having me on again.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining me. What do you have going on? Well, you always have a lot going on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Yeah, not all music podcast related too.
Yes,
Well, John, you will be joining me on Monday night on the Grant's Rock Warehouse. We're going to be taking a look at the year 2000
that's right.
and our top 10 tunes of that, well, I guess, pretty good year. I didn't have any problem making my picks. And I know you're going to be having a show that will run after that, where you're going to go into a little bit more detail on your top 10. Because when you got like 7 to 9 people on the panel, you got to be like quick like a bunny.
Exactly. That's why I do it. We used to be able to go deep into it, but when you have a panel of 9,
Yeah, it's just you just got to spit it out, maybe say one or two gems of thought or fun facts, and then you got to move on.
exactly. There you go. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Do what you love. We'll talk to you soon.